Have you ever woken up with eyes that feel like sandpaper, or driven at night and been hit by headlights that turn into a white blur? Most of us shrug and say it's just aging. But what if the biggest harm to your eyes isn't happening in the bright light of day? It's happening while you sleep, when the retina is supposed to be repairing itself. Vision stress doesn't clock out at bedtime. In fact, oxygen dips, oxidative stress, and inflammation at night can quietly chip away at the delicate cells that let you read, drive, and recognize faces. The good news? Small, specific choices before bed, like eating the right fruit at the right time, can supply the retina and nearby brain tissue with nutrients exactly when they need them most. Before anything else, this video is for informational purposes only. It's not medical advice. If you have an eye condition, sudden vision changes, or you're considering major changes to your diet or medications, please consult a licensed eye care professional before you act. Imagine this promise: 7 everyday fruits eaten within a precise window before sleep, each bringing compounds that support overnight repair, improving blood flow, tamping down inflammation, and supplying antioxidants that protect photoreceptors and the macula. That's the claim we'll work through, fruit by fruit, with the science phrased carefully and practically. If you want evidence-based, natural ways to protect your sight, subscribe now and stay with me through the whole countdown. The most surprising ones are toward the end. Let's begin by understanding why timing matters. During the day, your eyes are busy capturing light, converting photons into electrical signals, and processing motion and color. At night, the retina shifts into repair and maintenance mode. That shift requires oxygen, energy, and specific nutrients to clear away damaged molecules, fix DNA and photoreceptors, and rebuild light-sensitive structures. But sleep also brings a relative reduction in oxygen delivery and changes in circulation. When repair processes are starved of what they need, antioxidants, carotenoids, healthy fats, oxidative stress and low-level inflammation can accumulate. Over years, that contributes to blurring, reduced contrast sensitivity, and can accelerate processes linked to cataracts and age-related macular degeneration. Researchers and eye care organizations have repeatedly warned that age-related visual impairment is increasing globally, and many of the most damaging processes unfold quietly night after night. Nutrition isn't a cure-all, but timed, food-based strategies can be part of a real, low-risk approach to support nightly ocular repair. We'll walk through the 7 fruits that bring key molecules: lutein and zeaxanthin to shield the macula, anthocyanins to calm microinflammation, lycopene and citrulline to help circulation, terpenoid-like compounds that cross the blood-retina barrier, papain to counteract damaging glycation, and omega-3-rich seeds to feed membranes. For each fruit, I'll explain why it helps, what research suggests, and exactly how to eat it before bed, amounts, timing, and a pro tip that most people overlook. A quick safety note before we continue. If you take blood thinners, have food allergies, or are on medications that interact with warfarin, AOI inhibitors, or similar drugs, check with your physician before adding concentrated sources of certain nutrients to your evening routine. These fruits are foods, not drugs, but they can interact with medical conditions and medications in ways that matter. Starting the countdown at number 7, golden kiwi. Golden kiwi is often treated as a breakfast fruit, but it's an underrated nighttime ally. What it brings: lutein and zeaxanthin, the carotenoids that accumulate in the macula and act like an internal pair of sunglasses, filtering harmful blue light and scavenging free radicals. These compounds are pigments found concentrated in the yellow flesh of golden kiwi fruit. Kiwis also deliver vitamin C and other antioxidants that support collagen synthesis and help maintain the tiny blood vessels of the retina. In practical terms, lutein and zeaxanthin are nutrient guards for your macula. They can't reverse every age-related change, but research suggests diets richer in these carotenoids are associated with better retinal pigment density and, in some studies, slower progression of macular degeneration markers. How to eat it before bed? Aim for 2 golden kiwis about 60 minutes before you lie down. The thin layer of flesh just under the skin contains high concentrations of pigments. Peeling too aggressively wastes what you want. Slice the fruit and eat it at room temperature so flavors and enzymes are more active. Pro tip: golden kiwis are softer and sweeter than the green variety. Their delicate skin can be eaten if washed gently, but if you prefer to avoid the skin, leave a thin layer of flesh intact rather than scooping everything out. Next, number 6, watermelon. Watermelon is more than a summer thirst quencher. It's rich in lycopene, a powerful antioxidant that gives red fruits their color, and citrulline, an amino acid that the body can convert into arginine and subsequently nitric oxide, a molecule that helps relax blood vessels and improve microcirculation. For the eye, improved nocturnal circulation can mean more oxygen and nutrient delivery during the repair window. Some studies have linked lycopene-rich diets with reduced oxidative stress markers in ocular tissues, and research into citrulline and arginine suggests benefits to endothelial function, which translates to better capillary blood flow. How to eat it before bed? Have 1 to 2 cups of chilled, seedless watermelon about 30 minutes before sleep. Keep a little of the rind nearby. Some cultures use the rind in small amounts because it contains additional nutrients. And although we're not suggesting you eat the rind whole, leaving a tiny rind tip on your slice before refrigerating preserves some of those compounds for later. Pro tip: chilling the watermelon slightly can make it more refreshing without dulling the bioactives. Avoid combining watermelon with a heavy dairy dessert right before bed because calcium and protein can slow the absorption of certain compounds. At number 5, black currants. Black currants are dense in anthocyanins, the blue-red plant pigments that give them their deep color and that are strongly linked to retinal microcirculation and reduced microinflammation. Anthocyanins can help stabilize tiny capillaries and improve blood flow to retinal tissues. Animal and human studies have shown improvements in retinal perfusion and visual fatigue markers after anthocyanin-rich supplements or extracts. To be precise, many of the studies rely on standardized extracts rather than whole fruit. So if you're aiming for the concentrated effect seen in trials, an extract providing roughly 50 milligrams of anthocyanins in the evening is what the literature often examines, always with the caveat that participants and study designs vary. How to eat it before bed? If you have fresh or frozen black currants, a small cup paired with a source of healthy fat or vitamin C can enhance absorption. If using a supplement extract, take it in the evening with a tiny amount of food containing fat, a spoonful of full-fat yogurt or a few almonds, unless you need to avoid dairy, in which case choose a plant-based fat. Pro tip: anthocyanins are sensitive to heat and pH. If you make a warm compote, cool it before eating. For best uptake, enjoy black currants plain or slightly chilled. Number 4 may surprise many of you. Wild blueberries. When we say blueberries, the common grocery store variety is fine, but wild blueberries are concentrated in terpenoid-like compounds and anthocyanin profiles that differ from cultivated types. Some of these compounds are small enough to cross the blood-retinal barrier and have been shown in animal models to encourage repair of photoreceptor DNA and reduce markers of oxidative damage. Blueberries also bring a potent polyphenol mix that supports neuronal mitochondria, meaning they don't just help the eye, they support the retinal neurons and the visual brain centers that process signals overnight. How to eat them before bed? Choose wild blueberries when available. One serving, about half to 3/4 of a cup, roughly 60 minutes before bed, is effective. Freeze thawing the berries briefly. Freeze them, then let them thaw 10–15 minutes can increase the availability of certain bioactives, so buying frozen wild blueberries can be a smart, shelf-stable choice. Avoid combining with dairy within that hour. Dairy can reduce the uptake of some polyphenols. Pro tip, if you're tracking caloric intake, blend a small portion with a tablespoon of ground flaxseed or chia, which adds omega-3s and a little fat to aid absorption without a large meal. You may have noticed a pattern so far. Each fruit targets a slightly different mechanism. Carotenoids for the macula, lycopene and citrulline for circulation, anthocyanins for microinflammation, polyphenols for neuronal repair. The idea is not to rely on a single magic fruit, but to time specific nutrients so they're available during the retina's nightly maintenance. That said, the number one fruit on our list, which I'll get to, has a particularly strong case against a process called glycation, which is a major hidden driver of age-related ocular decline. But first, let's keep the countdown moving. Coming in at number 3 is red dragon fruit. And yes, its vivid color is a clue to what it does. The red-fleshed varieties contain betalains and other pigments that are linked to improved oxygenation and vascular health. Some small studies and physiological measurements suggest that compounds in red dragon fruit can increase ocular blood oxygenation and capillary perfusion in the short term, which matters because oxygen is the primary fuel for iron-dependent repair enzymes in the retina overnight. Additionally, dragon fruit seeds are small, fatty seeds. Chewing them helps release omega-3-like oils that feed photoreceptor membranes and keep them supple. How to eat it before bed? Eat half a red-fleshed dragon fruit about an hour before sleep. Chew the seeds thoroughly to release their oils, which provide additional membrane-supporting fats. If chewing seeds is problematic for you, blend the fruit lightly so the seeds are broken up. Swallowing whole seeds intact may pass through undigested, so if you have any swallowing issues, consult a professional. Pro tip, avoid heavy dairy pairing. Instead, accompany dragon fruit with a few walnuts or a sliver of avocado to add a healthy fat that improves uptake of fat-soluble antioxidants. At this point, you might be wondering about the strength of the evidence. That's an important question. Across the fruits we've covered, the pattern in the literature is consistent. Diets richer in carotenoids, anthocyanins, polyphenols, and certain fatty acids are associated with better markers of retinal health and sometimes with slowed progression of age-related changes. Many studies are observational or use extracts in controlled doses. Some are small interventions. Where papers report percentage changes, for example, improvements in blood oxygenation or reductions in markers of oxidative stress, those findings come from specific participant groups and conditions. It's best to view them as signals of potential benefit rather than guarantees. If you'd like, I'll summarize notable studies and the cautious takeaways after we finish the full countdown. One practical question I hear often is, why eat fruit before bed? The short answer, because many reparative processes are most active in the first hours of sleep, and supplying a timed bolus of bioactive compounds can increase their availability to retinal tissues during that window. Think of it like giving the repair crew the right tools right before they arrive. But timing matters. Eat too early and your blood levels have already fallen. Eat too late and digestion may interfere with sleep quality. Our general rule is to eat these fruits about 60 to 90 minutes before you go to sleep, with a few exceptions where a 30-minute window makes sense, and to pair them with a small amount of healthy fat to assist absorption where necessary. Before I move on to the top 2 on the list, which include goji berries and the number 1 fruit that many people keep on their counter, a quick practical aside about storage and preparation. Wash fruit gently under cool water, but avoid prolonged soaking. Room temperature fruit often yields better enzyme activity and flavor than refrigerator cold fruit, which can blunt bioavailability in some cases. Avoid consuming large dairy portions close to fruit intake. Calcium-rich foods can bind some polyphenols and slow their uptake. These rules will matter more when I lay out the 5 unbreakable rules after the countdown. I also want to reiterate the medical safety points. These foods are supportive measures, not replacements for eye exams, prescriptions, or surgical treatments. If you experience sudden vision loss, flashes, or a curtain-like shadow over your vision, seek emergency care immediately. If you are on medications like blood thinners or have diabetes, discuss significant changes in fruit intake with your provider. Some fruits affect blood sugar or interact with drugs in ways that matter. Now, before we move on to numbers 2 and 1, take a breath and imagine a different morning. You wake up and the world snaps into focus, edges crisper, colors clearer. If your eyesight improved 30%, what would you look at first? Picture that for a moment. Hold on to it, because the final 2 entries on this list are targeted to the deepest, most common drivers of lost clarity. We'll pick up with number 2, a small superfood with outsized claims for the macula, and then end with number 1, the fruit that combines an anti-glycation enzyme with vitamins that work synergistically to protect lenses and neuronal tissue. After we finish both, I'll outline the 5 unbreakable rules you must follow to maximize benefit, summarize the cautious science behind the top claims, and cover a brief checklist of when to check with a professional. But first, one more caution. Some research reports striking percentage changes in isolated measures. For instance, a study might report a participant group saw a 26% increase in some measure of ocular blood oxygenation after an intervention. These numbers can be compelling, but they come from specific tests under controlled conditions. They are not guarantees for everyone and should be understood in context. When I reference a study, I'll say a study reported or research suggests. And if the original source name is unclear in secondary accounts, I'll describe it generally as an ophthalmology or nutrition study rather than present a mistyped journal name as fact. If you're still with me, hit that like button if this is speaking to you, and leave a quick comment telling me which morning visual annoyance bothers you most: glare, blurriness, or trouble reading. Your feedback helps shape the practical tips I bring next. All right, up next, number 2 on the countdown, and then the reveal of the number 1 pre-sleep fruit that many of us have sitting on the kitchen counter right now. Number 2, goji berries, a tiny handful with a surprisingly big job. Goji berries are one of those traditional foods that modern research has started to take seriously for eye health, largely because they're one of the richest natural sources of zeaxanthin, the yellow carotenoid that concentrates in the macula and helps protect the most light-sensitive part of the retina. Zeaxanthin acts like an internal sunshade. It filters out high-energy blue light and reduces the oxidative stress that accumulates in the photoreceptors. Goji berries also contain other carotenoids, vitamin C, and a mix of flavonoids that support capillary integrity and guard neurons against low-grade inflammation. What the science suggests? Several nutrition studies and small clinical reports have linked higher dietary zeaxanthin with better macular pigment density and with slower declines in certain measures of central vision. In some trials, participants who added concentrated goji extracts or foods high in zeaxanthin saw measurable increases in macular pigment over time. Other studies note improvements in contrast sensitivity and reduced eye fatigue. As always, these findings vary by study design, dose, and duration, so consider them encouraging but not definitive. How to use them before sleep? Soak 2 tablespoons of dried goji berries in warm water for about 10 minutes. Then eat them roughly 30 minutes before bedtime. The short soak softens the berries and makes their nutrients easier to chew and absorb, while the timing places the zeaxanthin and co-nutrients into your circulation as the retina begins its nightly repair work. Pro tip: pair the soaked gojis with a small square of high cacao dark chocolate, 85% or higher, or a few raw almonds. The flavonols in dark chocolate and the healthy fats in nuts help with absorption and provide a complementary antioxidant mix that may amplify benefits. If you're diabetic, be mindful that dried fruit contains concentrated sugars. Check glucose effects and discuss with your provider before making this part of a nightly routine. Note on safety. Goji berries can interact with certain medications in rare cases, particularly blood thinners and some blood pressure drugs. If you're taking prescription medications, ask your physician whether nightly gojis are appropriate for you. And now, the #1 fruit on our list, papaya. This one deserves its top spot because it attacks a powerful, often overlooked enemy of clear vision, glycation. Glycation is a chemical process in which sugar molecules non-enzymatically bind to proteins, lipids, or nucleic acids, forming advanced glycation end products, AGEs. AGEs stiffen and cloud tissues, and in the eye, they contribute to lens opacity, a factor in cataract formation, and impair cellular repair processes. Papaya brings a naturally occurring enzyme called papain, which helps break down damaged proteins. And it also supplies a solid dose of vitamins A, C, and E, nutrients that together support collagen maintenance, antioxidant defenses, and photoreceptor health. What researchers report, nutritional studies and laboratory work have shown that papain and related plant proteases can reduce protein cross-linking in model systems and may decrease markers associated with glycation. Clinical evidence specific to papaya and human ocular outcomes is limited and often indirect, but the combination of anti-glycation potential plus vitamins that support lens and retinal tissues forms a biologically plausible rationale for including papaya in a nightly routine. How to eat papaya before bed? Aim for about 1 cup of ripe papaya cubes eaten at room temperature roughly 60 minutes before you turn off the lights. Room temperature helps preserve enzyme activity and flavor. Chilling can blunt some enzymatic effects. Don't refrigerate your serving if you plan to eat it within that hour. For an extra boost, squeeze a little fresh lime over the cubes. Vitamin C enhances antioxidant recycling and can synergize with papain and vitamin A. Pro tip: choose papayas that have a uniform yellow-orange skin and yield slightly to gentle pressure. Overly green fruits will be less ripe and contain less active papain. If you're concerned about sugar content, pair the papaya with a tablespoon of Greek yogurt or a few walnuts to moderate blood sugar response. Though avoid dairy within the 90-minute window if your main goal is polyphenol or carotenoid uptake from other nightly fruits. Why papaya is special for the brain-eye connection. The retina is neural tissue, and glycation damages proteins across the body's cells, including neurons. By supplying proteolytic activity, papain, and antioxidant vitamins at night, papaya may help reduce the burden of damaged proteins and support molecular repair pathways in retinal cells and nearby visual brain centers that process signals while you sleep. A few practical scenarios and combinations you can try over a week. If you like structure, here are low-intensity, easily modifiable nightly templates to help you rotate these fruits without overdoing sugars or calories. These are suggestions for healthy adults and do not replace medical advice. Light rotation week, designed for variety and moderation. Monday, 2 golden kiwis 60 minutes before bed. Tuesday, half a red dragon fruit plus a few walnut halves 60 minutes before bed. Wednesday, 1 cup watermelon 30 minutes before bed. Thursday, half cup wild blueberries thawed if frozen 60 minutes before bed with a tablespoon ground flaxseed. Friday, small cup fresh black currants or 50 milligrams anthocyanin extract with a handful of almonds 60 minutes before bed. Saturday, 2 tablespoons soaked goji berries and 1 square 85% dark chocolate 30 minutes before bed. Sunday, 1 cup ripe papaya cubes with a squeeze of lime 60 minutes before bed. Focused week for circulation. Favor watermelon, red dragon fruit, and black currants, spacing them to avoid too much sugar intake 2 nights in a row. Focused week for macula support. Emphasize golden kiwi, goji berries, and wild blueberries, again keeping at least one lighter night between higher sugar choices. Adjust portion sizes and timing based on how your sleep and digestion respond. If you notice indigestion or disrupted sleep, pull back or change the timing. The 5 unbreakable rules to maximize benefit. Follow these consistently. They are the practical backbone for turning nightly fruit into a supportive habit rather than a random snack. 1. Timing matters. Target 60 to 90 minutes before bedtime for most fruits. Use a 30-minute window for watermelon and soaked goji berries when specified. This window helps align peak blood levels of key nutrients with the retina's early night repair activity. 2. Pair with a little healthy fat when needed. Carotenoids and many polyphenols are fat-soluble or absorption-enhanced by fat. A teaspoon of extra virgin olive oil, a few raw almonds, a tablespoon of full-fat yogurt, or a sliver of avocado along with your fruit can improve uptake. If you avoid dairy, choose plant fats. 3. Avoid calcium-heavy dairy or large protein meals within 90 minutes of these fruit servings when your goal is polyphenol or carotenoid absorption. High calcium meals can bind some compounds and slow absorption. If you need dairy for protein, schedule it earlier in the evening. 4. Room temperature and gentle washing. Wash fruits under cool running water. Remove obvious dirt, but avoid prolonged soaking. Consume at room temperature when practical. Extreme cold can blunt flavor and may modestly reduce enzyme activity. 5. Mind interactions and personal risks. If you take medications, especially blood thinners, have diabetes, iodine-sensitive thyroid disorders, or known food allergies, consult your clinician before adding concentrated nightly fruit routines. Also, if you have swallowing difficulties, break down or blend seeds that otherwise could be a choking hazard. Common mistakes people make. Eating the fruit immediately before lights out. Too close to bed timing can interfere with digestion and sleep quality. Aim for that 30-90 minute window instead. Combining multiple high-sugar fruits in one sitting every night. That elevates overall sugar load and can affect blood sugar, especially in people with insulin resistance. Assuming supplements or extracts replace the whole food benefits. Many trials use standardized extracts to reach specific doses. Whole fruit gives fiber, a broader nutrient matrix, and better satiety. But if you use extracts, discuss dosing with a professional. Ignoring medication interactions. Even healthy foods occasionally interact with prescriptions. Check with your pharmacist or physician. Interpreting the studies. Cautions and realistic expectations. Across the literature, 2 patterns emerge. First, higher dietary intakes of carotenoids, anthocyanins, and polyphenols are associated with better markers of retinal health in population studies and sometimes with modest functional benefits in interventional trials. Second, a number of controlled studies use concentrated extracts or specific dosing regimens that are not identical to what you get from a single piece of fruit. That means a small cup of berries nightly is a reasonable supportive habit, but it's not a guaranteed fix for advanced disease. When you hear a figure like 26% increase in ocular blood oxygenation or 40% delay in cataract formation in secondary accounts, remember 2 things. Those numbers describe specific participant groups under particular conditions, and they rarely translate into universal, guaranteed improvement for every person. It's fair to say that research suggests potential benefits, some measurable, some more tentative, and that diet is one of many factors that influence eye health across a lifetime. If a quoted study name in informal reporting looks garbled or oddly spelled, treat it cautiously. I'll often say, a study reported, or research suggests, to avoid presenting uncertain citations as facts. Addressing common concerns and questions. Will this replace my eye doctor? No. These are complementary lifestyle actions intended to support ocular repair processes. Regular eye exams, compliance with prescribed treatments, and prompt evaluation of sudden symptoms remain essential. Could these fruits raise my blood sugar? Some, like watermelon and dried fruits, are higher in simple sugars. If you have diabetes or insulin resistance, monitor levels, reduce portion sizes, or prioritize lower sugar options like kiwi and small portions of berries. Always coordinate with your care team. What if I don't like one of these fruits? Choose alternatives that supply similar nutrients. For lutein/zeaxanthin, consider dark leafy greens earlier in the day. For anthocyanins, choose blackberries or cherries. For lycopene, try cooked tomato in the evening occasionally, though timing and fat pairing will differ. Are supplements better? Supplements can deliver higher standardized doses but skip the fiber and food matrix. If you consider a supplement, check labels and discuss with a clinician. Some extracts used in trials are equivalent to several servings of fruit. A short checklist before you start tonight. Pick one fruit from the list and commit to the timing, 30 to 90 minutes before bed. Prepare a small source of healthy fat if the fruit requires it: almonds, olive oil, avocado. Wash the fruit gently and set it at room temperature if possible. If you take medications, double-check interactions. Track how you feel in the morning for 2 weeks. Note any changes in morning clarity, glare sensitivity, or eye comfort, and bring those notes to your next eye appointment. Final safety reminders and professional consultation. This content is informational and not a substitute for professional medical advice. If you experience sudden vision changes, flashes, new floaters, pain, or a curtain-like shadow, seek emergency care immediately. Before making significant dietary changes or starting concentrated extracts, consult a licensed eye care professional or your primary clinician, especially if you take prescription medications, have diabetes, clotting disorders, or thyroid disease. A brief recap: why the nighttime window matters and why papaya tops the list. Night is when the retina and visual brain perform much of their maintenance. Supplying targeted nutrients shortly before sleep increases the odds that antioxidants, carotenoids, and proteolytic enzymes are available during this repair phase. Papaya earns the top spot because it combines an anti-glycation enzyme, papain, with vitamins A, C, and E that support lens clarity and cellular repair, and because glycation is a slow, cumulative process that significantly affects ocular proteins. Goji berry zeaxanthin is a close second for macular defense. The other fruits add circulation support, anti-inflammatory anthocyanins, and neuron-supporting polyphenols. Imagine the payoff. Picture this. You wake, stand at the kitchen window, and the morning world snaps into sharper contrast. Colors look a touch truer, details a little clearer. If your vision improved by roughly 30%, what would you look at first? Your grandchild's face? A book you've missed reading? Tell me in the comments. Your answer might inspire someone else to start a small change tonight. One last reminder. This video is for educational purposes only. It doesn't replace professional diagnosis or treatment. Check with an eye care specialist before making major changes to your diet, or if you have concerns about interactions with medications or medical conditions. If you found this useful, like the video, share it with someone over 60 who worries about vision, and subscribe for more practical, research-minded strategies to support healthy eyes as we age. Thanks for staying with the countdown. Sleep well, and let tonight be one more chance to support the remarkable repair work your eyes do while you rest.